Because I run a job board, I talk to applicants almost every day. And many of the people I meet make the same mistake. They have no clear job search goals. So they apply everywhere, every day, all day long. You might think it's smart to send lots of applications. After all, it's a numbers game, right? It's not. The more you narrow your search, the easier everything gets, and the happier you'll be in your next job. Stop chasing every lead. Instead, focus on what you really want. Now, figuring out your goals can be hard, but we have a MaxList resource that can help. Finding focus in your job search. Go to maxlist.org/focus. Our free step-by-step MaxList guide will help you create your own job search goals. Get your copy today. Visit maxlist.org/focus. Again, that's maxlist.org/focus. This is Find Your Dream Job, the podcast that helps you get hired, have the career you want, and make a difference in life. I'm your host, Mac Pritchard. I'm also the founder of MaxList. It's a job board in the Pacific Northwest that helps you find a fulfilling career. Every Wednesday, I talk to a different expert about the tools you need to get the work you want. Because of uncertainty or fear, you may apply for jobs that don't feel right. But doing this can make your job search harder and even hurt your career. Kat Nelson-Troyer is here to talk about how to find a job that's a good fit for you. She's an executive team and career coach and the CEO of Jigsaw Solutions. Kat also hosts the excellent Real Job Talk podcast, and she joins us from Half Moon Bay, California. Well, let's jump right into it, Kat. Let's start with definitions. What does a job that's a good fit look like?
A job that is a good fit is a job that utilizes your skills and your experience and also ignites your passion.
And how about a bad fit, Kat? What does that look like?
Oh, a bad fit is a little bit more challenging to discuss, but maybe not utilizing your skills or your experience, or it may just be the wrong fit, wrong culture, perhaps just not the right fit with the people you work with, because the people you work with, it's so important to have a good fit with those folks. It can make or break your job experience, I believe.
It sounds like a clear choice. Now, why do people apply for a job that might not be a good fit? What's going on there?
Well, I think that especially when someone is newly out of work or, out of work without a lot of warning, if they've been laid off or if there was a reduction in force or if their job was terminated for some reason, that can lead to fear and uncertainty and people just wanting to get a job as fast as possible without really thinking about the important things, like making sure that you've got a job that is a good fit, that you know exactly what you want, and you've maybe narrowed it down to a few different job titles and are systematically moving forward to finding a job that is going to be a good fit for you.
Well, I know we're going to talk about how to find that job that's a good fit, but before we get there, you mentioned fear and uncertainty. What's the best way to manage those emotions when you're in that position, particularly if you find yourself out of work unexpectedly?
I think it's important to understand that it's absolutely natural to have apprehension when you're initiating a job search, and that fears and doubts, that they are a normal part of not only the career experience, but the human experience. So to normalize that as much as possible and know that fear, uncertainty, and doubt are most likely going to come up for you at some point in your job search, especially when you have an unexpected layoff or termination. But expect it and normalize it and prepare yourself emotionally for this. When I work one-on-one with people, I make sure that they have what I call mantras in their back pockets, statements that they can pull out whenever they need to that helps them connect with their strengths and their hope, right? To help them feel empowered that they will make the right choice.
Can employers tell when a candidate is applying for a position because of fear or uncertainty? Is that apparent in the application or perhaps in the interview?
I think that that probably shows up in the interview more than the application, unless the application is just completely random. I mean, sometimes I was a recruiter for years, for 20 years before I moved over into the work that I do now. And so sometimes I would receive a resume that just, there was no alignment with the job description. So I might, when I see that, I might think, wow, are they just throwing things out there so that one of them will eventually stick? And that may be, that type of behavior may be coming from uncertainty or fear. But I think that in the interview process, that's where a candidate can very much convey who they are, and what they're looking for, and what's going to be a good fit for them. And that's the kind of energy that you want to bring into your job interview.
In your days as a recruiter, when you got to the finalist stage, you might talk to 3 to 5 candidates. If one or two of them were uncertain about the position, could you tell? And how would that affect your decision about who you gave an offer to?
Well, if a candidate is uncertain, it's going to show up in the interview. It's going to show up in the interview. And when I would give my notes to the hiring manager, I would let them know I'm not, this person has, may have the right skills and experience, but I'm not certain that this is a job that they feel certain about. So I would encourage the hiring manager and the interview team to really probe on that.
Some candidates might say, well, I'm using the job interview as a way to find out if this is a job that is a good fit for me. What would happen when people did that, Kat?
Oh, I would respect that as a recruiter, because that means that they proactively understand that fit is essential. And I would encourage them to ask any questions that will help them to determine whether the job's going to be a good fit for them. I would always tell candidates, hey, you're interviewing us as well. And feel free to ask any questions that will support that process for you.
How about your career? If you take a position that isn't a good fit for you, how will that affect your career in the long run?
If it's not a good fit, it is going to impact your career in that you're probably not going to stay as long. And longevity is still something that people look for on resumes. So I tell folks when they get into roles that aren't a good fit, just to make sure that they are able to speak to that role when they're interviewing, speak to the role. And it's okay to share that it wasn't a good fit and to share why, but to also to do it in a way where you position what you learned on that role as well. And to find the through line throughout your career of the contributions you've made in your career.
Well, let's talk about how to find a job that's a good fit. And one of the steps you recommend taking is to be clear about what you want, what you offer, and where you want to go. Those are 3 questions that can be difficult for some applicants to answer. But why is it important to have those answers?
Oh, I think it's essential to have those answers because the interview team is expecting that. Okay, so those are the basic things you need to be prepared for when you start your search. So I think that means you need to know yourself and you need to ask yourself some really important questions. I take people through a process where we look at their career chronologically and we go through each job. And I go back to their first job they had, even if maybe they were a babysitter, right? And say, what did you like about that job? What didn't you like about that job? Let's talk about your boss. What did you like about the boss? What didn't? And just, I have a number of questions where I take people through. And what that does is it gives them clarity about what they're looking for and what they're not looking for, so that they go into that interview process super clear. And when a candidate is super clear, a employer is generally very happy about that, because that helps the employer to decipher whether it's going to be a good fit for them, because we want a good fit on both sides.
Do you need to do this work before you send out your first application?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I've got a tool that I'll share a little bit later that can help people do that.
Why do you need to do it before you hit send on that resume? Some people might say, well, I'll figure it out as I go along once I get an interview. Why don't you recommend that approach, Kat?
Well, I think that having clarity on what exactly you want is going to make your resume better, first of all. So having that clarity will support the resume. It'll support the positions that you apply for, and it'll also support the interview once you're there. So it's essential that people know themselves, because if we don't know ourselves and know what our strengths are and know what our weaknesses are as well, and be able to bring that to the table and speak to those clearly, we just won't do as well in the interview process. And that will mean fewer job offers at the end of the process. What I like is for folks to have multiple offers that they can choose from. And by being prepared, that supports that.
Terrific. Let's pause there, Kat. Stay with us. When we're going to take a break. When we come back, Kat Nelson-Troyer will continue to share her advice on how to find a job that's a good fit for you. Every time you hit the send button on a job application, you run a risk. Scammers could capture your emails and other private data and use it to break into your accounts or send you fraudulent pitches, unless you use NordVPN. It's a virtual private network that hides what you do online from crooks monitoring your connections. NordVPN does this by encrypting your data wherever you might be. It's also easy to use. You can log in with one click or enable AutoConnect. And once you set it up, you can use NordVPN on up to 6 devices. NordVPN has become an important part of how we work at MaxList. Every month, we communicate with hundreds of candidates and employers, so we need to keep everybody's data private and secure. NordVPN has an exclusive offer for Find Your Dream Job listeners, and it comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Get up to 75% off and 4 months free. Sign up today. Go to nordvpn.com/dreamjob. We all know that first impressions matter. And the first thing a hiring manager sees is your cover letter. That letter gives you an opportunity to wow an employer. But too many job seekers squander this chance. They send a cover letter with typos, a sloppy format, and cut and paste text. And it's not enough to avoid those rookie mistakes. You also have to tell a compelling story. This sounds complicated, but in fact, if you follow a few rules, you can write a cover letter that stands out from your competition. Our MaxList guide shows you how to do this. It's called Simple Rules for a Winning Cover Letter. Go to maxlist.org/cover letter. We show you the content, structure, and style that hiring managers like. You'll get examples and templates you can use to write your own winning cover letter. Get Simple Rules for a Winning Cover Letter today. Go to maxlist.org/cover letter. We're back in the MaxList studio. I'm talking with Kat Nelson-Troyer. She's an executive team and career coach and the CEO of Jigsaw Solutions. Kat also co-hosts the excellent Real Job Talk podcast, and she joins us from Half Moon Bay, California. Now, Kat, we're talking today about how to find a job that's a good fit for you. And one of the points you made at the close of the first segment was you need to be clear before you send that first application about what you want, what you offer, and where you want to go. Talk a little more about the importance of why you need to know where you want to go, and how do you advise the people you work with to figure that out?
If you don't know where you want to go, that is going to show up in the interview process. So it's very important that at least you have a sense of where you want to go in your career. And it's important to get clarity just as soon as possible at the start of your search about what you want, what you offer, and where you want to go. And that means doing a self-assessment about your strengths, your needs, like the personality fits, and also the available opportunities. So what I do with folks, and we have a resource on the Real Job Talk website, which is realjobtalk.com. There's a resources page. You click on the tab, and we have a must-have list. And that takes you through a process that helps you to identify all of those things. It's important, it's very important for you to be clear on what is essential for you in your next role. So the must-have list, will help you to stay focused. It'll help you to apply for the right jobs. And even I think the most important piece about it is that when you get your offer, you're going to use your must-have list like a checklist to make sure that the essential things that you need to be successful in your next role are covered in the job offer.
Another step that you recommend for finding a job that's a good fit is to make sure you align your resume with an employer's needs. How does this help you, Kat, and how do you do it?
Well, absolutely. I think that's where reading the job description is very important, and to make sure that your resume covers at least 70% of the skills and the experiences that they're looking for. And if there's anything else that seems unique about the job description, you can tailor your resume for that. I recommend that people have 2 or 3 different resumes depending on the jobs that they apply for. For example, if you are in account management, there may be different titles that will use your skill set and that you could do. So know what those titles are, and then make sure that your resume reflects the job description. So that means each time you apply for a job, you do that scan and you make an adjustment if needed.
How much time does that take, and why does that make a difference to do that work?
Well, if you've done the upfront work, doing a quick little tweak doesn't take very much time at all. It means reading the job description and scanning your resume, making sure. So that can take as little as 5 minutes. But the importance of having that alignment will be whether or not your resume gets passed on. You have to remember that recruiters see hundreds of resumes a day, and they're just going to put forward the resumes that are the strongest resumes, the most aligned. So you want to do everything in your power to align your resume with the job description.
What about red flags, Kat? What red flags should you look for when you're applying for a job, or perhaps you're in an interview, that would signal to you that this job isn't a good fit?
I think you can see red flags starting with the job description. It's kind of like a gut feeling, right? If you see something that doesn't feel like it's going to be a good fit, you may not want to apply for that job. But I think we see red flags more in the job interview process. And that's where you want to be asking similar questions to different interviewers. And you want to make sure that the responses are similar, right? If you ask a question, oh, tell me what this manager's like to work for. You want to make sure that the responses are aligned. And if they're not, that would be a red flag for me. If work-life balance is super important to you, you ask questions about that. And if they come back and tell you that it's normally a 60, 70, 80-hour work week, that would be a red flag. So it depends on that must-have list, what is important to you. And then you ask questions. And when the answers to those questions aren't in alignment, that's a red flag.
So look for inconsistencies in responses. Also revisit your must-have page. What do you recommend to your clients, Kat, about that must-have list? Should you expect to get 100% of your must-haves or 70%? What's a good ratio?
No. What we do with that must-have list is I first have them go into kind of a dreaming place where they think about what if they could have the perfect job that they write, like an ideal job where they write their own ticket. I have them go through that process and really envision that. But the must-have list is your bottom line. Like, I need X amount of salary to survive. I need a boss that's going to be fair and will act as a mentor. I need coworkers that I'm aligned with. Whatever your must-have is, it's going to be different for everyone, but maybe 3 to 5 items that are your non-negotiables. That's what you need when you have your offer and you're doing your checklist.
So if you've got a list of 3 to 5 things that you must have, and if you don't check all the boxes, are you recommending walk away? That might not be a good fit.
I would recommend that. Now, if there's something, we talk about, if the company has an espresso cart, right? How really important is that? We can always bring our own coffee into work. Like that shouldn't be on a must-have list. But again, things like salary, relationship with boss, growth opportunities, if growth opportunities are important, whatever is important to you really needs to line up, or it may not be the best fit.
I know you're also a big fan for treating the interview as a two-way conversation. Why should you do this, Kat? And how does it help you suss out whether a job is a good fit or not?
Well, it's really our responsibility as a candidate to make sure that we're making a big life change with a job. And we want to make sure that it's a good fit. So but by aligning with that must-have list and asking questions like values, if integrity is incredibly important to you, and the company, most companies have their values written on their website. And so one question you could ask is, can you tell me how the team works with the value of integrity? Ask questions that are important to you. That's the most important thing. So make sure you know what's important to you, and that must-have list will help you do that.
Is there one question that you always recommend a candidate ask in order to figure out whether it's a good fit or not?
An interesting question, Mac, is to ask the team members who are interviewing you if there were any surprises for them when they started their role, and what were they? And that can really elicit some interesting information.
Finally, what about mindset, Kat? How can paying attention to your mindset help you find a job that's a good fit?
Mac, we talked about the importance of normalizing fear and doubt and expecting that in the process. And the antidote to fear and doubt is having a positive mindset and, believing in your ability to bring in the job that you want that's going to be a good fit for you. And there are lots of steps to do that, right? But mindset is the most important thing. And then you work on your clarity, your resume, your preparation for interviews. All of that follows mindset. We have to believe in our skills and our experience and our abilities. And if you have doubt in that, this is where I highly recommend developing a personal board of advisors, where you have people who know you very well. They may be close friends, they may be family members, they may be colleagues, they may be former managers, but you want to connect with that network. And whenever those fears and doubts show up, reach out to one of your board of advisors who knows you really well, and they will reflect back to you who you are and their experience of you. And have those mantras in your back pocket so that you can feel safe and strong as you navigate this job search.
It's been a great conversation, Kat. Now, tell us, what's next for you?
What's next for me? I am having fun with my co-host Liz on Real Job Talk. We're about to have our 100th episode, and we don't have any plans to stop. And we love it when folks come and, maybe have an issue with their career, reach out to us. Our email is realjobtalk@gmail.com. If you have a career question or even need some career coaching, our favorite episodes are the ones where we do live career coaching on our shows. And some folks are shy, so we'll just do a listener question. And we probably will have a conversation with you before we answer your question.
Well, terrific. I know listeners can also learn about your own work by visiting your website at jigsawsolutions.co. Now, Kat, given all the great advice you've shared today, what's the one thing you want a listener to remember about how to find a job that's a good fit for you?
I think you need to approach your job search like a job and make sure your mindset is strong and that you have good support and that you've got practical steps to get you from point A to point B, which is finding that job that is a really good fit for yourself.
Next week, our guest will be Jessica Fiesta George. A seasoned recruiter, Jessica has more than 20 years of leadership experience in talent acquisition. She also hosts the Just Get Hired podcast. It's a weekly career advice show. A strong personal brand can make a big difference in your job search. How good is yours? Join us next Wednesday when Jessica Fiesta George and I talk about Personal Branding 101 for job seekers. Until next time, thanks for letting us help you find your dream job. This show is produced by Max List. Susan Thornton-Hoff schedules our guests and writes our newsletter. Lisa Kislenberry-Anderson manages our social media. Our sound engineer and editor is Matt Fiorillo. Dawn Mole creates our transcripts, and our music is by Freddie Trujillo. This is Mac Pritchard. See you next week. Have you ever been asked this in a job interview? Tell me about a time when you didn't agree with your boss. What would you say? This is what's called a behavioral interview question, and it's a common tactic. Employers use this kind of question to explore your fit for a job based on your past experience. It can be an easy question to answer if you have the right strategy. I show you how to answer these gotcha questions in our free Max List guide, 100 Behavioral Interview Questions You Need to Know. To get your copy, visit maxlist.org/questions. You'll also learn 4 simple steps for answering any behavioral interview question. Again, that's maxlist.org/questions. You can count on getting these questions in your next interview. Why not get the answers before you walk into the interview room? Go to maxlist.org/questions.